Hello. In this demonstration, I will provide an overview of the different job submission methods supported in the TotalFlow PrintServer. We will begin with manual job submission methods used by operators to submit jobs to the PrintServer, and then explore some of the direct submission methods like hot folder and FTP. I will cover detailed reviews of the job editing tool and the print driver in a subsequent video. Let's begin. To submit a job using the TotalFlow PrintServer operator console, you begin by clicking the Submit Job button on the toolbar in the upper right-hand corner. The job selection dialog is displayed. On this dialog, there are a number of methods to bring jobs into the system. You can see in the left there are mapped drives, there are local files on your computer, and then there is USB drive and DVD for the USB and DVD on the TotalFlow PrintServer computer. The map drives is an important addition to the TotalFlow PrintServer update. This lists two directories that I have predefined and shared on a centralized Windows server. To map to these drives, I shared them on the Windows system, and I can define them here. So you can see, for example, if I look at this one, I have put in the IP address as well as the shared drive, the username and password. I can also specify, if I want to, whether this should be persistently mounted so it's always available, and who should be able to access this, just me or all users of the system. You can map multiple drives from the same server or from different servers. This allows operators to quickly access jobs that are shared on centralized server systems. You can see the list of map drives here, and I'm just going to pick one of these. So I'll go in and I will pick Chapter 1 down here from this list. I could, if I wanted to, navigate through these folders just like I would on a Windows system. Up here on the top, you can see the folder structure, and I can navigate back. If I pick a job from a sub folder and then close this window and come back, it will return me to the same location. Down in the lower right are the various submission options. I can print, hold, or edit. If you click the arrow to the right of the edit button, it will show you some of the more advanced print submission methods like print and store. Same for hold, process and hold. The edit button is new. If I click that, it'll immediately open this job in the job ticket editor so I can change the properties before I print the job. In the left-hand side is a list of virtual printers. You can pick these printers, and the job settings associated with those virtual printers will be applied to the selected job. In this case, I will just leave it as hold. So I'm going to click the hold button and bring in this job. You can see that the job was brought into the inactive queue and has no job properties associated with it. Let's bring in another job and edit it immediately. So going back to the job submission dialog, I'm going to click a different map drive. I'm going to scroll down and find the 2011 Shock Owner's Manual, and I'm going to click the Edit button. In this case, it will import the job and immediately launch the job ticket editor, where I can specify the number of copies. I'll say 11 copies, specify the paper, and I'll say letter blue, and I can preview the job on the right-hand side to make sure that the settings I have set are correct, and I'll just specify staple. Now in the past I had to hold this job and then go release it, but in this case what I'll do is just print directly from here. And you will see that the job begins to prepare to print, and we'll begin printing immediately from there. All of those small steps that we can do to try and improve operator efficiency add up over a day's worth of work. So I'm just going to hold that job while we show you some other methods. I can also drag and drop jobs from my local computer, in this case an Apple Macintosh computer, onto the browser window. So let me open up my file chooser, and I'm going to bring in a job. So I will select one or more jobs, and I can drag them. Oh, let me close that. I will drag them onto the browser window. I could drop them directly onto print. I could drop them onto the inactive queue. Or, if I want, I can drop them onto the associated virtual printer. So the hold, the print, or another one. In this case, what I'm going to do is drop it onto the print virtual printer, and it will immediately begin to start to print the job. If desired, I could have dragged that job onto a virtual printer and edited the job immediately like I did in the previous example. If I dropped it onto this pencil, it will import the job and then launch the job editing tool with the properties of the virtual printer applied. In this case, it was blue covers stapled. And I can scroll down to the bottom and see my back cover. And I could click print, set my copies, and be ready to roll. I'm just going to cancel this job. Another important thing to point out about drag and drop is you can drag multiple files at one time. So in this case, what I will do is I will pick these 6 files, and I will drag them onto that virtual printer. So I'm going to drop that onto that virtual printer. It is going to apply all of those settings. So if I go look at any of those those jobs that were just imported, you can see that they all have blue covers and they all have dual F staple. I could release those and print them at any time. When you drag multiple files onto a virtual printer, the edit pencil does not appear. You can only edit the jobs if you drag one file onto the virtual printer. As you've seen, there are multiple ways to quickly get one or more jobs into the system and to apply virtual printer settings to those jobs. Let's take a quick look at some virtual printers and how you set those up. Virtual printers are in configuration under the workflow area under virtual printers. So in this case, what I'm going to do is we will go create a new virtual printer. I click add. I'm going to give it a name, blue covers. Whoops. I am going to look at some of the settings on here. I can enable it, use it as the default virtual printer, set my processing option like hold or print, and then specify my job properties. In this case, this launches the job ticketing editing tool, so I can specify the values to use for this virtual printer. I will set my paper to letter. I will say two-sided, and I will say staple, bind, dual left. I'm going to specify my covers and say print front side only, and I will go pick letter blue. The preview on the right hand side gives you an approximation of what the job should look like when you use that virtual printer. You'll notice the locks on some of these settings. In some cases, jobs submitted to the TotalFlow PrintServer come from other upstream applications like Prep or TotalFlow Print Manager. In that case, you can specify whether you want the TotalFlow PrintServer to use the setting that comes from the upstream application or override that. If you want it to override, you can lock it. You can lock the setting, which means use this setting no matter what was received from an upstream application. So now that I've set the job properties for this virtual printer, let's press OK and go back and look at some other settings. For a virtual printer, you can specify the supported submission methods. For example, can you use this virtual printer when an operator is submitting on the console? Can you use it for hot folders and FTP or any of the other settings? In this case, I'm going to leave all of these set. Let's press OK, and then we will see that blue covers has appeared here. If we go back to the jobs page, we can come in, drag this job back onto that blue covers virtual printer, drop it onto the edit pencil, and we will see those properties have been applied to this job. And there it is on the left-hand side. I will just hold that job. For the last part, let's take a look at some of the other submission methods. If you go to Configuration under Network, in the top you can see all the different submission methods: JMF, LPR, hot folders, raw port, etc., and FTP. We'll look at both hot folders and FTP. Let's go back to my local file system. And you can see over here I have already connected to the IP address of this print server. The virtual printers that were created are displayed here. If I wanted to drag a job onto there, I could just drag this from here onto Blue Covers and drop it into that virtual printer. And that job will appear in this list. And there it is. You can tell it came in through the FTP site. Similarly, I can use FTP to drop files onto those. In this case, you can see what I'll do is I will disconnect and reconnect. It now shows me my, oops, let me go reconnect here. Okay, now shows me my virtual printers. I'm going to drag one onto the print queue. It has processed that over, and you can see the job is preparing to print. Okay, that summarizes our various job submission methods. I hope this was useful. In a subsequent video, I will explore the job ticket editing tool and print drivers in more detail. Thank you for your